class that we're going to be doing, it's made me creatively think, because I've got all the responses with me on my phone, and I am going to go through them. That's why the last 10 minutes I want to leave for question answers, and also the responses that people have sent.
Sure.
So that I can send. If we can't do so many recipes online, but at least we can share ideas. So
I
that's
think
important.
ideas are important and essential, because all of our students and faculty alike are working extremely hard to make ends meet, to understand how they can keep practicing cooking at home.
Absolutely.
And the bottom line is that they just want to continue practicing it because they don't want to lose touch of it. And I think no better person to tell them how to do that than yourself. We will come back to a couple of things from the time in November, because I don't think I ever had a chance to ask you about that experience from your perspective. So we will reminisce about that towards the end as well. I will ask you about what you felt, how you felt about cooking at that time, and we will of course talk about some of your favorite recipes also at the end of the session. So
Absolutely.
just giving you a little heads up of about 30 minutes. That's all.
Okay. So
we're ready to go
start?
now. Absolutely, chef. Absolutely. The floor is all yours.
Okay, cool. Great. So, hi guys and good evening. This is Chef Anayata from Soda Bottle Loknavala. I'm the chef partner at the Cyber Hub outlet, and I've been part of the restaurant since I was 23. It's been 7 years now. And I started as a chef manager. I started running the kitchen at a very young age, actually, and I had an advantage. The advantage was that I knew Parsi cooking, and a lot of people didn't. For people who don't know what Parsi food is, I'm just going to do a quick recap for you guys. It's basically a mixture of 5 different cuisines. It's a mixture of Iran, Maharashtra, Gujarat, a little bit of Goa, and a little influence of the Britishers. So if you have to understand the cuisine and you want to know how is it a regional cuisine in India, it's because of those particular states, the spices, the ingredients, the terroir, what grows in those regions is very, very predominant in our cooking. So for example, the berry pulao at Soda Bottle Loknavala is really popular because of the nuts and the berries, which are an Iranian influence. But the masalas are all Gujarati and Maharashtrian, masalas that we use. Red chili and peanut combination, which is a very thecha kind of combination in a vada pav. It's commonly used to spice our prawns and, like different meats that we might be using. So just to give you a little bit of gist, this is what Parsi food is. Those are the flavors. And I have been talking about it, promoting it for the last 7 years. But most importantly, in the last 3 years, I realized that as a chef, we are spending so much time in the kitchen. We are always talking about ingredients. We are always talking about, trying new things, trying new recipes, trying new ingredients, training our staff. But what we are not focusing on is sustainability. And the last 3 years, what I have been doing is I've been working with a lot of local Indian grains, a lot of local farmers. I've been working with, especially with millets. I've been working with, for example, just to give you a couple more examples, with a lot of zero waste cooking, which I think chefs ignore in hotels. Even though I was also part of the same thing, even when I was working at Taj, the production is so high that there's so many ingredients that just because it's a peel or it's not used or it's not perfect, it's thrown away. So in my kitchen, since my operations is still very small, very easy to control, what I started doing was I started taking out time to see what is going into my dustbins. And when I started looking at what was going into my dustbins, I realized that there are so many different parts of the ingredient that we just overlook, and we just, we just think, acha, it's a root or it's a stem, to usko phek do. Why should we throw it? Why do we not take our time to think about how to use every part of the ingredient? Just because we have not learned it doesn't mean we can't implement it. Now, in hotels, it's very different. In our homes, it's very different. In our homes, it's different because our grandmothers and our mothers always taught us never to waste anything. They always used everything from scratch. And when we go to fancy culinary schools, and talking about myself, and I'm sure you guys also, we are told that, you know, a certain cut has to be done at a particular centimeter. You know, if you're doing a julienne, if you're doing a brunoise, if you're doing anything, I'm just talking about basics. It has to be done. Yes, it definitely, you need to learn that. It's very, very important. But the scraps that are left, it should not be wasted. It should be used into something. Put it into a tikki, put it into a soup. What I do is I always, whenever I'm garnishing something, for example, if I'm doing a mango cheesecake and I've cut the cubes perfectly, and I have some cubes which are not perfect or just the side trimmings that are left, that never goes into the dustbin. It's always pureed, or it's always put into a box, or it's always used. And it's a practice that our mothers and our grandmothers, you know, really, really strongly follow. And I thought that why are we, as an operation in restaurants, not able to do this, when if you actually reduce your waste, and you use every part of the ingredient, and you know, even use your leftovers, then not only are you protecting your environment by consuming less, but you're also reducing your food cost, which is a very, very important factor. As you know, culinary students, you have to realize when you're going to be put into kitchens, you are going to be questioned about your food cost. And I was one person, I hated maths, I hated Excel sheets, I just don't like any conversations about food costs and iska percentage nikalo, aise karo, ye karo, and I hated it. But I realized that if I don't take out time to look at these spreadsheets, I don't take out time to look into my dustbins and train my staff, I will be going up to at least 30-35%. When the regional Indian kitchen, your food cost can easily be between 22, 23 to 26. And if you're saving on that 4%, it's a lot. With that 4%, you can actually speak to your owner, or if you are the owner, that 4% can help you get more ingredients, get more equipment, get, you know, or get more time to train your staff, make more profits. Obviously, the restaurant industry, you know, the profits are very, very low, the rents are very high, HR cost is high, all those things are there. But just by saving that 3-4%, you give yourself some space. So, I mean, I can see some questions coming. If you guys have any questions, please put it down in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll come back to it later. So, as I was saying, so 3 years back, I started discovering that. And when I started writing about it on social media, on my Instagram page, I got noticed by the UN. Basically, I mean, I want to talk to you about it for 5 minutes. It's basically part of the Sustainable Development Goals. So for you guys who don't know about it, you can Google it. The UN has set these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I've got it here with me. You guys can Google it. They're called the Global Goals. I'm sure ye ulta hoga. I'll actually, what I'll do is, one second.
No, it's fine.
No, I'll just turn it. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Is this, yeah, so those are the global goals, and those are the 17 global goals. I hope you guys can see it clearly. So the second goal is zero hunger. If you look at the second one, it's a pot which is kind of steaming, and it's got zero hunger written on it. The global goals are basically, they were made and adapted by all the countries in the world 2015. And it was said that we have to achieve these targets by 2030. And what are these goals? These are all goals for a sustainable world. You want the world to be healthy, nutritious, not wasting resources, you know, doing your best technically. And that's why the Chef's Manifesto kind of came about. This is the Chef's Manifesto. I've kept a copy in front of me. For you guys who would want to read this, you can go online. You can download a PDF. It's www.chefsmanifesto.com. And it's basically to make you understand that why chefs and how chefs. Like, how do you think chefs and the UN can work together? Because even I had that question in my mind that, you know, as a chef, how do I contribute? So the reason that why chefs, and it's all there online, if you go online, I'm just going to give you a gist of it. The reason that chefs are chosen is because they are the people who actually connect you from the farmer to your restaurant, farm to fork. And chefs are the people who are actually dictating menus to you guys. They are the ones who are telling you to try do new things. So that is why, and that is how chefs can help achieve these global goals. And trust me, it took me also some time to kind of understand that, how are we going to help? How is our contribution important? And that is why there are 8 points over here, if you can see. These are the 8 thematic areas. These 8 areas focus on how one particular chef can contribute. Now, I might not be able to focus only on plant-based ingredients, which is point number 6, but I might be able to celebrate local and seasonal produce. I might be able to value natural resources and reducing waste. So these are some of the points, if you go online and read, but we are talking today about reducing waste and how we can do that in our homes, in our kitchens, in our everyday life. So I'm just going to turn the camera back on and come back here. I hope you guys could hear me and see the manifesto at that point. So I'm just going to quickly tell you what are the 8 areas. The first one is ingredient grown with respect to earth and its oceans, which means whatever ingredients you're getting from the soil or from the ocean, you need to make sure that you're respecting it. How do chefs respect ingredients? Making sure that you're storing it properly, making sure that you're cleaning it properly, making sure you're using it fully. And an example would be squid. You're using the squid, you're cleaning the squid, you're also using the squid ink. You're trying to do all of those things. Second is protection of biodiversity and animal welfare. So protection of biodiversity is also something that I very strongly work with. This is the second point. It is basically to tell you that I'm just going to put this in Hindi, कि घर में सिर्फ एक तरह का तेल मत रखो. This is just an example. So don't keep only one variety of something that grows abundantly in your own country. In India, we have sarson ka tel, we have sesame oil, we have peanut oil, we have, obviously, we use olive oil in a lot of our cooking. We use ghee, we use butter. We have so many different mediums of cooking. If you include all these different oils in your diet, your brain needs oils, your bones need oil. So it's just protecting your biodiversity. If you just keep having canola oil or vegetable oil, तो बाकी oils का supply का क्या होगा? बाकी oils बनेंगे या नहीं बनेंगे? We're not sure. So as chefs, we need to make sure that in our kitchens, we have enough biodiverse ingredients. That's a very important point. We have different varieties of rice, we have different varieties of dal, we have different varieties of millets, so that if you eat something today, then tomorrow your nutritional benefits can come out of some other ingredient and you're not eating the same thing repeatedly. Then the third thing is investment in livelihoods, which means taking care of your staff, which means taking care of your farmers, taking care of your the people who work for you, just your support staff, your dishwasher, your chefs. There could be someone who's pregnant in your kitchen, taking care of their medical benefits. So there are lots of things. How can you, as one person of one small restaurant or in a hotel, how can you contribute to livelihoods? I'll give you an example. There's a cheese farmer who's in Mukteshwar and he makes cheese. As a chef, I can ask him to give me his cheese. I can check his cheese, I can try his cheese, and I can make a dish and I can promote it. By doing so, farmer gets recognized. We are also celebrating local and seasonal ingredients, and we are promoting a farmer where he is able to support his cheese makers and pay for them. Because we are buying the cheese, you know about it, you buy the cheese, and like that we create a chain. So that's called investment in livelihoods, which is very important as a F&B person. The fourth point is valuing natural resources and reducing waste. Whatever resources we have, it could be gas, it could be electricity, it could be a wood-fired oven, anything, we need to make sure that if we're not using it, we're switching it off. If we're using it, what are the pollution levels? For example, in your kitchens. If you're not using your burners, switch it off. If you, like, for examples, we leave our pilots on for a long time, right? So our pilots, if we don't have orders and we're not doing any cooking for 3 hours, we can switch off our pilot burners and we can save gas. We will not only save the bill, but we'll also be saving the resource. And then reducing waste. Now, reducing waste is primarily the topic that we're talking about today. We're talking about zero waste cooking. We're talking about how can we as chefs talk about it, how can we implement it, and there's no better way than starting at home. Like I was saying, grandmothers, mothers, they are the best people to learn, about zero waste. Sorry, I've been talking extempo for the last 5 minutes. So what all comes under zero waste or reducing waste? So if you give me an example that, okay, chef, what do we do? It's not possible for us to always use everything. It's not possible for us to always use all the chilkas or all the peels or all the seeds. I would say start small, start somewhere. I'm not saying that you're going to become a perfectionist. I'm not saying that you will start becoming a zero waste hero in every dish that you make. But you have to start cooking with a little more conscience. You need to start realizing that whatever ingredients you have to try and use it to the fullest extent. That should be your motive. I'm sure, I mean, for me, there are hundreds of times that I feel that, okay, I could have gone the extra mile and probably saved that itna sa bhi jo maine pheka tha, usko bhi main bacha sakti thi. I can, store that. But I just feel sometimes because of the volume that we are creating in our restaurants, sometimes because of the rush, sometimes because of the energy, it could be, you had a bad day in the kitchen. There could be hundreds of examples, and things might not work out and you might waste something. It's fine, it's possible, it's okay, to make mistakes, but you need to start small and you need to start doing something about it. I'll give you an example. Potato peels is something that we use in our kitchens a lot. We don't throw it away. So basically what happens is, after you boil potatoes, I've got some potatoes which I've boiled. I wanted to show it to you. So when you peel the potatoes, if the skin comes off completely, which is very, very thin, it's okay. You don't want to, you're like, okay, I can probably not use it, or I can throw it away. But there are times when the peel comes off with a lot of boiled potatoes stuck on it. That is what you don't want to waste, for sure, because that potato has been grown by the farmer, by the soil, by the earth, water, nutrients, 100 things, time, the sun. I don't know how many different elements that go into creating one little potato. And then what we do is, usko chila aur usme sara aloo chipka hua hai, and we just throw it in the bin. That's wrong. Don't do that. So either you time your cooking so that jab garam hai usko cheel do. So then you're not wasting anything. The skins that are there, they can go into your food waste and they can go into a compost pit. But if you've got potatoes stuck to it, what we do in the restaurant is that we take the potato skins with the aloo stuck on it, and we make a star snack, because we usually peel the potatoes at 3 and 4 baje chai banti hai. So those potato snacks को बेसन के मिक्सचर में डाल के, कढ़ाई वैसे भी ऑन होता है, we just put it in, put chaat masala, and the staff has the potato, they're like little potato wedges, and they have it for their staff chai. So that's just one example to give you that we just need to start thinking a little differently. I was also a student. I never thought of these things. There was no chef or mentor who taught me these things. I just learned it on the go. The biggest challenge was to teach my own staff, because if I was not there, they'll be like, kaun karega, who's going to do it? So much mehnat, so much work. But it's about making them realize, showing them, talking to them about the planet, talking to them about wastage, showing them videos, images. Matlab, every time I do a staff briefing, we are talking about these things. It's important to train your staff, because you yourself will not be able to do everything in your kitchen. So there are lots of different elements about reducing waste. We're going to be talking about leftovers when I'm going to go into the kitchen. But I want to tell you that each one of us needs to start doing it in our own kitchens, practicing it in our own kitchens, in our homes, especially right now we are at home. This is the time to practice it. And when we get back into our professional kitchens, we need to be very aware that this is how we want to cook. We want to be smart, we want to be conscious, we don't want to waste anything. And we want to start thinking of how as chefs can we contribute, right? So that's the point on reducing waste. The fifth point is celebration of local and seasonal food. Now, currently, all our imports are shut. Borders are shut. A lot of ingredients which we are used to seeing are not going to be available. What is going to happen? What is the situation going to be? The situation is going to be that we are going to have to look inwards for suppliers who are, making those ingredients that we were probably using, which are foreign ingredients. What will that do? That will boost our own economy. That will, support smaller farmers and livelihoods, and actually create a product that we don't even need to probably, get something from abroad, like mozzarella, for example. I know Italian mozzarella is the best, but if I'm not getting it, and I know someone in the hills who's preparing that mozzarella and it's very good, like it's 90% close to the Italian mozzarella, why will I not support it? So a celebration, and that's why the word celebration of local and seasonal is, because we need to look at what is available around us, what is being grown in abundance, try cooking that, try using that, putting it on your menus, and you will see the difference in product and produce. And also, you will be supporting an economy which is going to be your own country. In the next 2 years, it's important as customers, as chefs, as restaurateurs, to look at all the produce that we're getting from whatever's around us, and local and seasonal, and celebrating it to the fullest. The next point is a focus on plant-based ingredients. Plant-based ingredients means making sure, how do we kind of make sure that we have a balanced diet where we're having more ingredients which are plant-based. The biggest question that I get is plant-based protein. How do you get your protein? Like usually people eat fish or meat or chicken and they get their protein, but there are different ways of getting plant-based protein. Plus, India is so big on pulses and lentils and beans, I would say. I think we're the highest number of, we produce and consume the highest number of red kidney beans after Mexico. And it is that we have so many different ingredients which other countries don't have or don't use to the fullest. Rajma chawal still gets made in every household once a week. We're getting our protein from there. Your chole, which is again used in so many different ways. Kala chana. I would say you have different what do you call it, ways of using it. You can make it into it. I feel that there are so many ways that our Indian ingredients and our Indian beans and our legumes can be used, and they have huge amount of plant-based protein. So we need to look at more ingredients which are vegetarian, and how do we add them on our menus. Then the seventh point is education on food safety and health diets. When we're talking about students like yourself, which is obviously education, but food safety, you do know about HACCP and hygiene rules, you do know about FSSAI. After the COVID-19, we've got a lot of new guidelines which have come, which we need to follow. And as you guys, as students, as educated students, have to be very, very well prepared to come into the industry now with very high hygiene standards. You are going to be responsible for a high amount of cleanliness. A lot of things that you need to be careful about. Like food safety, HACCP, hygiene, healthy diets. And also as chefs, creating menus which have a good balance. So you have enough nuts, fruits, legumes, pulses, like you guys said, meats also, fish also. So that's important. And the last point is nutritious food that is accessible and affordable for all, which means that whatever you're cooking, whatever you're creating, that is accessible. It's not too expensive. Obviously, some restaurants are expensive. We're not sure how our pricing is going to be after COVID-19, the entire episode ends. But I do know that I'm going to still keep some of my signature dishes. I'm going to still make sure that, you know, people come back to us, if not sitting in the restaurant, but deliveries and takeaways are going to be very high. And I know a lot of people miss our food, so I know they will come back for it. So this is a quick gist on the Chef's Manifesto, at least from my perspective. And I would want you guys as students, take out time. This is a time that you can research. You're at home. You're lucky to be at home and safe. Take out time, read this, go online, go onto the Instagram page, join it as chefs, and see that what are chefs from all over the world doing. I get to learn so much every day from, you know, what I read. So learn that. And I hope this helps you guys out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go into the kitchen. And I got all your responses. I think you guys filled out a questionnaire. Is Arjun still here?
Yeah, chef, very much.
Yeah, so I was saying that we filled out a questionnaire and I've got all the responses with me.
Okay.
And I just want to say that the highest number of responses was dal. As a leftover. Somehow hamari dal hamesha bach jati hai and we always put it in the fridge. There was vegetables, there was boiled potato, carrot, some curry. These are some of the examples that you guys have sent. But what I have done is I also had leftover dal. And I'm going to show you guys that we're going to go into the kitchen. Just give me 1 second. I am going to take this. Keep adding your questions to your chat, guys, please. That'll be amazing. I'm just going to turn the camera around. So this is my kitchen post lunch. I've just kind of cleaned it out a bit and got some ingredients ready. So the biggest, the highest number was dal. And I want to show you guys what I've done. This is, so I was about 15-20 minutes before the session. This is my pan just to show you guys. I had chane ki dal, which was left over. And this is the chane ki dal, which I have dried up, like literally put the entire chane ki dal into this pan, cooked it, boiled it till the time all the water has evaporated. If you can see the texture, can you? You are muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, chef, we can.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I was saying that this was chane ki dal that was left over for me. And what I did was I put it into a pan and I have evaporated all the oil, all the water. And I just put it into a thali so that it cools down. And this was made yesterday, the chane ki dal. And what I had for lunch was this. This is left over from lunch. This is the dal ki pronti ka atta, which is again dal. The atta had some onions, some green chili, some coriander, and some spices. And the atta was made out of it. So this is just to show you one example of what you can make with leftover dal. But we're going to be making a tikki, and let's just do this very quickly. I've got some boiled potatoes here. I'm just going to peel this. So this is what I was talking to you guys about. If you peel it when it's warm, you will get the skin out really easily. But if you peel it when it's cold, the skin comes off with a little bit of the flesh. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take 2 potatoes. And I'm peeling the potatoes. And we're going to grate it into the dal, which is sukhawa. Now, the reason I did this preparation before is because if the dal was hot and the potatoes were hot, it would be very difficult to get the right consistency. So I'm just going to grate the potato. And this is easy. These are all the ingredients that are available in your home. You can easily use them. Just going to put this all in. Take out everything from the grater. And into this mixture, I'm adding some chopped green chilies. I've got some chopped onion. This is half an onion which I've chopped. Some coriander, some chopped green chili, and some onions. So we're just going to add the onions. We're adding the coriander. This has got the stems as well, if you guys can see. And I'm adding the green chilies. So this is all done. Now we're going to come on to this side where I've got all my spices. So I have got some jeera powder, bhuna hua jeera. I'm adding that. I'm adding some salt. Again, not too much salt because your dal pehle se also had salt. Make sure that it's, I'm adding some red chili powder. So now you're making a tikki. So obviously it's a snack, so you want to make sure it's a little chatpata. Little bit of garam masala. Little bit of amchur. Just a pinch. And a little bit of chaat masala. Right? So now what we're going to do is, we're going to come back on this side. And we're going to just mix this up. And I've also got some besan over here, just in case I feel that my mixture is, if it's too soft and I need to add some besan, I will add it. If you guys have, if your dal is still very watery, I would suggest reducing the dal because you want to get a nice tikki consistency. You want to make sure everything's mixed well. Now, this is such a good way of getting to, your family to eat healthy. Plus, it's a plant-based protein. You're making sure that, you're eating your dal. And it's a way of making your leftovers into something new. So, I mean, it's a combination of many things. And if you guys have any questions about the recipe, please keep putting them in the chat. Now, this can be, can you not hear my voice, guys? Can you hear it or not?
Chef, we can hear it.
Someone just messaged saying you can't hear my voice.
No, we can hear you just fine.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So what I'm saying is that if you keep this mixture in the fridge for some time, it will harden a little bit more and it'll be easier for you guys to roll it. But I'm not putting it in the fridge. I'm just going to taste it quickly. It's really yummy. I'm going to just wash my hands and then we're going to make the tikkis. No, genuinely really good.
It looks good.
Okay. So what we're going to do is switch on the gas. I prefer using ghee. I'm going to put a few drops of oil and then put some ghee.
There's a question I don't recall using any atta.
I haven't used any atta or maida. No, I haven't. But I'm going to answer all the questions at the end. So this is, I'm just going to wait for the questions to all come together. Okay. Because the questions are all here. Okay, so we're just nicely heating up our pan, and while that's happening, on my hands also, I'm just putting 1 drop of oil. The reason that we put a little bit of oil is so that we can roll the tikkis. I like to make them very small because when you're at home, even in the restaurant, however you want to shape them, this is a great size. Also, the best part is you can give it any coating that you want. If I had some puffed millet or amaranth, I would coat it with that, give it extra nutrition there, but I don't. You can put poha, you can put sabudana, which is soaked. These are all Indian ingredients easily available at home, but we just don't think creatively and we don't use them. So I'm just making a few of them. The rest of the mixture I'll keep in my fridge, and I'm going to use it in the evening before dinner, which is a nice, it's like a nice pre-snack. So I'm just putting it into the tawa. Just maybe put 2 more. And this hardly took 10 minutes if you have all your ingredients ready. And I think it kind of, all the points that we discussed for the Chef's Manifesto, it kind of brings together all those points. So this is your leftover tikki, and this is made out of I had made 1 katori of dal, out of which half of it was made for lunch with the dal ka paratha, and half of it was left for the tikki. So this is just 2 ways of using dal. You can also add some peanuts. You can also add any nuts that you like. You can do that. I'm just going to turn it to a nice light brown color. We will give it a little more color. These ones are nice. Any tikki, if you know, make it in ghee, the flavor is just amazing. So that's there. While this is just slightly cooking on the other side, I'm going to start getting my plate ready. So while this is happening, while the tikkis are cooking, I'll just tell you about this chutney. I don't know if you guys saw on Instagram, I'd made some aam panna, and the aam panna I had actually by mistake also put the gutli, which is the seed, and it was bitter. So what I did was I turned that aam panna into a chutney. It's on my Instagram if you guys want the recipe. These are done. I'm going to switch this off. And we're going to serve these dal ki tikkis with this aam panna chutney again, which was created out of, because it was a zero waste recipe. So that's the color. Really nice. Put that. So yeah, there you have it in what, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, we've created a dish. Thank you for helping. So yeah, these dal ki tikkis are ready, served with mango chutney. It's a story which you guys can read on Instagram if you guys have the time. But just to show you, I'll just break one, show you the consistency. Now, if you have boiled corn, boiled matar ki sabzi, bachi hui sukhi sabzi, I would add it to this. If you have gajar, grated, any vegetables that you might have, this is great to add it for kids. It's so healthy and nutritious. Make it into a, if you put it into a sandwich, make it into a toasty. 100 ways of using it. I'm just having a bite, and then we can. That was really good. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the recipe. It was very easy. Oops. Sorry for that. Yeah. So it was really easy, and it talks about zero waste. Talks about reusing leftovers, repurposing leftovers. Really good. So my husband's also approved this recipe. So chalo, at least dinner is done. But yeah, now I'm going to leave the floor open for questions because I think we have exactly 10 minutes. I'm really happy on time. We've done really good on time.
Perfect.
But I hope you guys can still hear me.
Crystal clear.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Okay, perfect. So now, whatever questions you have about the Sustainable Development Goals, about the Chef's Manifesto, about this recipe, about anything to do with ingredients and how you can repurpose it, please let me know. Otherwise, if you guys don't have any questions, I'll use the last 5 minutes where I've got the list of all the ingredients that you guys have written, and I'll just give you guys some ideas.
All right. Chef, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Perfect. Let me just say that.
I'm sorry, I'm also eating because it's really hot and it's really yum.
No, yeah. Good. You're doing justice to the food, and that's very important as well. First of all, let me just say that looks absolutely divine. Congratulations. You and your husband are very lucky. You're a lovely evening snack ready for yourself. And thanks for letting us into your kitchen. I know chefs are very protective about their kitchens. It's their domain.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So thanks a lot for that. All right, so we'll jump into the questions. I'm going to try and moderate this for you. I'm guessing you can also see the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
But let me just see if I can help out with this. So right at the beginning, we had some comments about, you were mentioning about, how to, on sustainability. We had a comment from one of the students who said that, you can make your own manure from your herb garden. And this is what he's doing.
That's amazing. I have also, I don't have a lot of space to grow my own ingredients. The last couple of weeks, I think I have been growing all my herbs. I've been growing dhania, spring onion, doing all sorts of experiment with growing my own ingredients. So I think take this time out, read a little bit, and you can sprout all these ingredients in like close to 10 to 12 days. And it's super exciting to see you grow your own stuff. So please do try it.
Cool. So can I ask, what exactly are you growing? What are the things that you've been growing and using?
So I've been growing chilies,
okay.
Green chilies. I've been growing coriander, mint, lemongrass. Lemongrass I grow all year round anyway because we use it in our chai. Parsi chai is made with lemongrass and mint. Mint is in summer because it just grows really well in summer. You have to make sure when you're growing mint, you have lots of water it well. And spring onions is what I'm growing right now. That's about it. Nothing else. No tomatoes, nothing fancy or big.
Sure. All right. So someone asked about whether it's gluten-free. I guess you can respond to that though. You did.
It is gluten-free, yeah. So I haven't added any maida, corn flour, or atta. Okay. The reason I sukhaud my my dal so well, when you saw the texture, it becomes dry, it's almost powdery. If you don't do that, if you just put dal fridge se nikal ke, which has water in it, then you need to add some starch, and the potatoes also won't be able to, make the tikkis. Right now, there's literally nothing, and it holds a beautiful shape. When we do it in restaurants and hotels, we always add maida corn flour. I'm being very honest. We always do it. At home, I feel wherever we can avoid, we should avoid. Wherever it's necessary, yes, please do add it, because maida and corn flour do help. Even rice flour helps a lot. A lot of us don't keep rice flour in our kitchens. It gives like any pakoda, any tikki, rice flour gives you that crispiness. You can make your own rice flour at home. Just take rice in a pan. Just make sure that you bhuno the rice a little bit, cool it down, and then put it into your mixie, and you'll get amazing rice flour. So I kept some besan in case I needed any. I was going to add some besan. So yes, it is gluten free and it is vegan, except for the ghee. The ghee is not vegan.
Okay. Then we had a question, chef. Someone asked, you mentioned something about your aam ki chutney, and he said that, could you just confirm what was the ingredient you added by mistake in the aam panna? Not the chutney, sorry.
So this is the aam ki chutney. What happened to so I was actually making an aam panna recipe because I had 2 mangoes and I thought I'll make aam panna. After I boiled the mangoes, I peeled them and I kept it in a bowl, and I didn't realize that the gutli was still, the seed was still there. And I put it into my blender, and my blender is really like it's a rocket blender. It blends everything. So I put it on, and it's one of those blenders that, you don't need to hold. You don't need to hold it. Like, some of the blenders you really need to hold it, and it's shaking.
You need to give it moral support.
So I left it, and I could suddenly hear this cut awaz. I was like, I didn't put any ice. I've not put anything. Opened it, and I saw that there were pieces of gutli, and I was like, shit. I put the seed into it, and then I said, okay, let me strain it. So I strained it. Then I added mint and everything to make the panna. I added salt and mint and black salt and jeera, and I had it, and it was still bitter. And I was like, shit, this is completely ruined. So what I did was I stored it. The next day, I made a chutney out of it, in which I added some spices, and I added some gur and sugar. And this chutney is in the fridge, and it's absolutely outstanding. And I just realized that with a mistake, you can actually make a dish. So yeah, that's the story.
Some of the best mistakes have become great creations, haven't they?
Yeah.
In restaurants and hotels.
Absolutely.
Datta narrates stories of how dal bukhara was a mistake at one point.
Yeah.
It just happened.
I know. So it's come out really, really nicely. So I was like, I should share this. So my idea was to share the aam panna recipe, but I ended up sharing the aam panna chutney recipe, which is what I've named it. And it's on Instagram. You guys can see the recipe.
So we're going to go and get it from there.
Yes.
Lovely. Also, chef, we had a question by Rahul who says, hello, chef, I just need your help regarding peas. He's got a lot of frozen peas in his freezer, and if any recipes, if you could suggest some.
Okay, so I would suggest, again, like I was saying, with this tikki that I've made, I would add peas to it. But whenever you're adding peas, make sure you saute the peas. Make sure the peas are cooked. And after you saute your peas, make sure you kind of blend it. You don't want a puree, but you want the peas to be slightly mashed and slightly broken. That will give you a really nice texture. If you're adding it to a tikki, I would totally suggest a matar ka paratha. I've made it in the lockdown. Aloo matar ki paratha comes out amazing. So, lots of green, fresh matar. Cook it. Like I would put masalas and cook it like a sabzi, and then make sure that I mash it with some aloo and then put it into a paratha. If you're looking at doing something which is more Asian or continental, you can always add it to a pasta. You can do a green pesto pasta with lots of green peas in it, or you can just do a cheesy sauce pasta with some green peas in it. You can also make it into a dip. Green pea dips are amazing. You can Google them as well. They're really tasty. So you have different cuisines. Whatever you're in the mood for, you can try something.
Excellent.
Anytime.
Yeah. Chef, we had a question about, yes, someone, Shweta. Shweta wants to know, can you share your mango custard pudding recipe?
I just made it yesterday. And again, what happened is I took a video of all the steps, and when I was layering the dessert, I was alone at that time. I didn't have anyone to hold the camera for me. So I just quickly layered it because I wanted to go to sleep. And I realized that I have got all the videos of all the steps, but I don't have any videos of the last bit. So I'm just trying to see if I can improvise that with picture or with an explanation. I'm just trying to see that if that happens, hopefully by tonight or by tomorrow, it should be up.
Great. Wonderful. And if I don't remember later, Chef, please do share your Instagram handle with us on the chat box also.
I will.
That,
I'll put it on the chat box.
Sure.
I'll just put it right now in the chat box so that everyone has it, and you guys can follow me for all the recipes that you need. You can also, ask me any questions that you have on any of the recipes, because I do reply.
There we go.
Sorry?
No, I said that you do share quite some interesting recipes. So
Unable to hear you. Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I was just praising, and I was saying that you've been sharing some really interesting recipes, and I think if with people following you, they'll be able to learn more. Chef, if I can just ask a question of my own, I've been wanting to ask you. We talked a little bit about how the role of the chef has changed, or it's going to change more so. You talked about how concentrating on food cost is integral. Then training is important because you teach people about zero waste cooking. Let's talk about your role for the last 7 years. Could you kind of just describe?
Arjun, your voice is breaking.
Is it better now?
Your voice is kind of breaking. I'm sorry.
All right. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better, but it was breaking continuously, so I couldn't hear anything.
That's all right. I'll just I'll just sum up my question.
Sure.
I wanted to talk to you about and get your views about how a chef's role changes. I mean, you mentioned that you've always focused a lot on training your team about zero waste cooking. You've reluctantly or not as much enjoyed the role, but embraced the role of food cost and administrating that. So in your view, how is the role of a chef changing, and how is your role in the last 7 odd years in Soda Bottle Lokanwala changed?
Sure. So we'll treat this as the last question because it's already 5. But I'll just quickly sum it up for you. The last 7 years have been extremely, I would say it's been challenging yet very fulfilling. It's been something that's been somewhat of a roller coaster in terms of me learning and me also creating. When you're just out of culinary school or you worked in a couple of hotels or restaurants, you're still very, very raw as a chef. And there's a lot of, in the beginning, the first 3 years, I would say just managing my team, just making sure the food was on point. I could not see anything else. For me, my kitchen, my team, and my working hours was everything. I didn't look at any cost. I didn't look at any ingredients. I didn't look at, sustainability. I just looked at producing food and putting it out there every day. Once my team, after 3 years, kind of became more stable, was able to manage things on their own, that is when I started exploring, creating, doing more in terms of social media, in terms of recipes, in terms of sustainability, like I said. I took out time little by little from my schedule and I started doing that. And that's when I kind of realized that there are a lot many things that I want to do other than just being in the kitchen from morning to night. That's how my role has kind of changed. And every chef has a different path. You might have a great experience in the beginning. You might have a great mentor towards the end. You might have a bad experience at some hotel or restaurant and you might not like it, or you might feel that, you didn't enjoy it as much. But the main point is to constantly keep moving forward and constantly keep trying new things and